We're done.
Awesome. Did you make me a co-host? Awesome. Okay. I'm really excited. First I want to address, thank you so much, you all, for understanding that I missed last week. We had a local friend of ours commit suicide at the same time a bunch of our local friends got COVID. So it was just a really kind of tumultuous time, and it was not going to be a time I was going to be able to be present. So I took the day off to take care of myself, and so I feel a lot better today. The good news is that today we're doing an artist that I love very much. I was almost hesitant. I'm almost a little hesitant to do her because she's so influential on my own work, and she truly is such a genius. We're going to look at Joan Mitchell today. And Joan Mitchell, I came to Joan Mitchell because I was part of a women's art collective, and we did a project based off of the book 9th Street Women. And that book follows the story of several of abstract expressionists, founding female artists. Something that is really important about Joan Mitchell's life is that while she has a very prolific and very impressive life, it was very hard for her. She was competing with male counterparts a lot. She was in the same kind of social circle as William de Kooning and Lee Krasner and Jackson Pollock. Lee Krasner had the privilege of being married to Jackson Pollock, which seemed to give her a certain amount of automatic presence. And Joan Mitchell wasn't married to one of the famous guys. She actually was really smart about it. And she kind of started hanging out at their watering hole to get the group. She was born in 1925 and she died in 1992 of lung cancer. So she worked in everything on the in-between. She did oil on canvas, pastel on paper, lithographic printing. We're actually the video I chose today is actually about her project with the lithographic printing. Because it's a collaborative piece and the gentleman who collaborated with her gets to talk about her. And I think it's really beautiful and important how he talks about her. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through 5 of her pieces. And I have a couple of questions. I'm gonna ask those questions and have you guys answer those questions. And then we're gonna take words that we use to describe Joan's work and we're gonna base today's exercises off of them.
Okay.
So I picked 5 of my favorites. I have a very expensive, very large Joan Mitchell book that I recently got. You know, Joan Mitchell was professionally trained as an artist. She went to Chicago School of Art, the Art Institute of Chicago. Hello. And she was awarded a fellowship upon graduating and went to France with it. So she spent the first part of her career in New York City, and then she spent the second part of her career living actually in France. And when she got cancer and went home, she went home to France, and she actually died in France. She really is quite impressive, and similar to Lee Krasner, a woman of the same age as her during that same time, they were judged a lot on their personalities. They were strong women. They were talked negatively about because strong women competing with male counterparts can be like that. So we're going to start with this very interesting video about Joan's piece, just because the lithographic pieces, just because I find it to be super interesting the ways that, we experience new art forms as an artist. And Joan's quite a bit older in this one. So here we go. It's only 3 minutes long, so don't worry. It's 60s.
Joan Mitchell was such a strong painter from the very beginning. This period of Mitchell's work in the early 60s, she is exploring and navigating a whole different method and range of paint application, from throwing paint on the canvas to squeezing paint directly onto the painting, seemed to revolve around a conflict between 2 primary areas of activity. And you certainly see that in Noel.
Joan Mitchell painted Noel in Paris
at a very emotional time. She had just learned that her mother was diagnosed with cancer. She was in a very intense personal relationship. And in many ways, a lot of the feelings and angst she was going through were played out in many of the canvases that she did at this time.
There is a vigor and an expressiveness in the way that this painting and other paintings from this period are created that does give them, you know, their stories. I think that Noel really does sparkle with the chromatic contrast between this sort of hot, bright, orangey red and the whole range of greens. And that certainly characterizes this painting, that idea of conflict.
In the 1980s, Joan Mitchell was represented by Xavier Fourcade Gallery, one of the top galleries in New York, and they specialized in abstract painting. In 1985, they had a major exhibition of Joan Mitchell paintings from the 1960s, and Noel was featured in that exhibition.
This group of paintings, they had never been seen in New York before. They'd been exhibited only once previously. They were put in storage and remained out of sight for the following 20 years. It just becomes this remarkable time capsule. And the show was very well received, and several of the paintings were sold. There were only 3 of them left out of the group. Joan was never not aware of the reality that her gender, her identity as a woman, put her in a category that she bridled against, that she worked to not allow.
Oh,
Waiters always look at me and think that I'm going to have a little salad, maybe a soup, and that'll be the whole meal. And when I do my act,
allow to limit her. She might stand in front of a painting, nudge a companion and say, not bad for a lady painter. She pointed these arrows at herself in order to make it very clear that no one else had any right to say these things about her. I feel strongly that one of the reasons that Joan Mitchell's work is increasingly recognized, increasingly held in high regard, is because her goal for her paintings was that a painting should be a repository that reflects some aspect of lived experience. So that, like a great poem or a Shakespeare sonnet or a great piece of musical composition, you know, the greatest of them are never dated. They're alive in front of our eyes.
So I thought that I had a different video loaded up, but I clearly changed my mind, which totally happens. Okay, so I'm gonna also, so we're gonna look at some of Joan's work. I'm gonna move this so I can make sure that what we're looking at. And here's my plan for today. I've chosen 5 of my favorite of Joan's pieces. What we're gonna do is we're gonna go through these pieces and we're gonna look at them individually, and I'm gonna ask you guys questions about them, and I'm gonna have you respond to those questions. Some of the answers I'm going to jot down, and then, like I said, we're going to use them later in our pieces. This is probably one of my favorite of Joan Mitchell's pieces, La Vie en Rose. Something that's really important about Joan Mitchell is she's actually considered to be up there with Joseph Albers in ability to use color. So her color theory is renowned. And you know, when you look at these pieces, you can ask yourself, what do the colors that Joan is using here, how does it impact the work? So this is a 4-panel piece. These artworks are literally as big as one of the walls in this room, okay? So these 4 take up a massive space when you are watching them. Can you tell me, first off, let's start with what 5 words would you use to describe the lines in these paintings? I'm going to start. I'll say the first word that I would use for these particular ones is active. Does anybody else have any other words? We need to come up with 5 words. We're going to do it for each of these paintings.
I was going to say movement, but that's pretty similar to active. But
something that I think is really interesting is if you look at the panel that's on the left, can you see in the bottom third where she adds just a little bit of like a smoky green? I wish that I could make it bigger. I realize that I have it as big as it's going to allow me to go. But right here, you can see that there's a little bit of smoky green. She does that in a lot of her paintings, where you can see that she knows colors so well. She knows how to throw something in. And as that woman who spoke about Noelle was telling us, Jill Weinberg Adams, she likes to have two major parts of conflict. So you can see in this 4-panel series that the left side has a lot of action and the right side has a lot of action. How do you think that these choices that Joan made in the two panels in between affect how we view the action on in the beginning and in the end? Because ultimately this is the story here, right? So when you're thinking about words to describe Joan Mitchell's work, I thought I had a list for myself and I don't have a list for myself. That would have been helpful, huh?
The word that keeps coming to me is slouching.
Why slouching?
I think because of the dip in the middle.
Yeah, right here. Yeah.
There's like frenetic energy and then slouch and then sort of kind of that. I don't know why, but that's what I think of when I see that.
It's something that's really important to think about when you're considering your compositions for abstract art, is how you guide a person's eyeballs through your stories. Clearly here, Joan knows that purple and blue and black play really well off of each other. You know, she uses the green and the yellow only to create, I think, a little bit of liveliness. Maybe it's meant to be, because it's called La Vie en Rose. You know, maybe it's meant to be part of the story of the flower that she's speaking of. But her work is, hold on, and I made us a Joan Mitchell or Roaming Studios album. So here is my next favorite one. We're going to enlarge this issue. So this one's very different in comparison. You can see though that she still embodies the same pattern with that purple spot, right in the middle. And you can see where, you know, as I've said before, green and purple have a really magical relationship. There is something about the two of them that this one looks different, right? You're not going to see slouching in this one. The energy is sporadic in a different way. I would say this one has explosions, maybe, or moments that get big and get small again. You know what I mean? Like fireworks, maybe even. I unfortunately don't speak French, so I'm not sure that I know what Girolata means. A lot of her titles are in French, but does anybody have any other words that they would like to use to describe the lines in the paintings?
I would say like building or something, like the kind of remind of ants.
Yeah. You know, these again, also just because Joan Mitchell is who she is, these are the size of our walls in our house. You know, like they're so large. What do you think Joan had to do to make gestures this big? You know what I mean? When you think about that, is not, we're going to be working on paper that's in front of us and we're going to be emulating these gestures. But when we talk about what it takes, the physicality that it takes to physically move that large, it's a very different experience, right? It's a very different.
How did she use a ladder? Did she do it on the floor? Did she just roll a long extension with the roller? Or
I've never seen her with an extension of the roller. I have seen her work on the floor and I've seen her work hanging on walls next to her. I've never seen her in a ladder. So I'm going to assume that base layers are done on the ground and then it's kind of moved around as it's necessary. I've worked on canvases this large, you know, where your whole hand is taking these giant motions. And I think that that is probably what Joan had to do to accommodate some of these huge things. She's, you know, you're right about this in that it is layers and layers and layers of work. And something, Jeannie, especially, I'm going to challenge you to do today is to start to really build your layers on top of themselves, because that's where the depth of Joan's story comes into play. That's where you can really see how she is telling us what she's trying to tell us, is by building up, but consciously. She used the blue that she used with this green, because this green is a very specific hue of green, you know, and she used a turquoise blue that she knew would lighten it and make it look beautiful. The spots where she has this yellow up here too, and these tiny little bits of like orange or red, those tiny little marks make such a huge impact on a piece that is primarily like neutrals. It's a really incredible use of color. So let's, this is another one of my favorite ones. This is one of her earlier ones. It's from, oh, I guess it's not, it's from 1970. I mean, in the middle. She painted for 40 something years. She was actually considered to be kind of a child genius painter. Her father was a painter too. And this is from 1970. She painted it in France. You can see some things that I think are really interesting here is, you know, you can see the intention of some of the drips, her decision to keep certain drips and not keep other drips, how they become impactful in that way. Obviously her play of blue and yellow, and with that little orange in there is, I mean, it's one of my favorite color combinations. Could there be a more beautiful color combination? I don't think so. You can see that she still uses her small marks in the top part where the orange is with the yellow to kind of define individual marks. I think this one's very unique and interesting in her like scope of the work that she does. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones. It's just so different. It's a different palette than she uses normally. It's again giant. And it's called Red Tree. I would say that these marks are alive to me. I would use the word alive. Again, Joan does the same thing where she's using this kind of color scheme of these dark purples and these maroons, and then she's thrown in tiny little bits of that, you know, like minty green almost, or like a light blue, just in little marks, just in little moments to really create focus. Some of the other words I might use for this one is like hurried. Not that her process is hurried, but I feel like a little bit of this painting feels hurried. So it's interesting that it's Red Tree.
There's a frenetic quality to a lot of them, but like the one you just showed before, it's like the frenzy almost stayed in the yellow part and everything else kind of peaceful.
I imagine honestly that she started similarly to this in that piece and then covered it with like a masking process. Just knowing abstract art and like kind of the easier ways. What happens sometimes with pieces is that you start it and then it's not quite doing what you want it to do, so you cover a good amount of it, right? And we have this one as our last one. This one, I think, so I sometimes struggle with abstract art that is too busy. However, again, I'm super involved in Joan Mitchell's choice of colors. This one is oil on canvas, but you know, Joan Mitchell was known for using all materials. So today, during our exercises, I'm going to suggest that you start with, if you have a crayon or a colored pencil, that we start the first couple just with, you know, the smallness of it, because it can be so easy to make big marks and then try and build on top of big marks. One of the things about Joan's work is obviously there's an energy to it. There is a fierceness that she applies to the page. I would also say this one makes me think of the word athletic. Because I mean, I feel like it's a little bit of a workout to make this one happen. Leah, do you have any words? I see you staring at it with that face. Yeah.
Here, I'm unmuted. I just fucking love it. What I just keep thinking is I just love those colors, and I love the layering of the colors on top of each other. And I'm trying to think if like it makes me, I just love the colors so much. But let me look at it for a second. What I want to figure out is what is the emotional content.
Right. This one's called East 19th Street, 9th Street. So we know it was from that time period that she was in 56. It was that time period where she was creating with Helen Frankenthaler, Lee Krasner, gosh, what are the other two? Joan Mitchell, and
it feels like there's an emergence almost, like
right?
she's pushing through something very dark and difficult, and she's kind of bursting out like fire.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so it's like, it doesn't feel like a light piece in any way. I'm not like getting la 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 la, isn't this pretty and happy, even though it's a really gorgeous piece. I'm feeling almost like a dark like vortex in which she's kind of, you know, trying to like push out, and she's having to force that connection. That's what I'm thinking when I see it. Weird. Yeah. Anyway, there you go. That's me. The vortex is always near.
Vortex, I think that it goes in concept with that word that's in like athletic almost.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to have us do today is I'm going to ask you to, we're going to do 2 or 3 pieces. I've laid out my, I love Joan. Sorry, goodbye, Joan. We will miss you.
We will miss you.
So I'm going to do this. Is it really hot in there, Leah? Do you need?
It's just me. It's just me.
Okay. So here's what I'm going to have us think about is I want you to be thinking about how Joan's marks translate to the emotions that she's trying to represent, right? And she's doing this without using representational items. I want you to be really smart about your color choices today, because Joan was really smart about her color choices. Why don't you do something like, and this is what I was going to ask people, do you guys want me to pull up a digital color wheel? Because I want you to be really intentional about the color choices you make. Maybe you work with her blue, orange, and yellow color scheme that we know is really successful, with white, and, you know, at the end throw in something else. Like I said, I'm going to suggest maybe we start with, I'm going to start with oil pastels. Actually, I think what I'm going to start with is these little weird crayons that I have, just because they're just so dang enjoyable. I don't think I have a decent blue is the problem. That's cool. It's cool, cool, cool. Look how big my blue is. The exact opposite. Okay. So I'm going to have us warm up a little bit. Do you guys remember the rate scribble exercise? I'm going to set a timer. I want you guys to think about the energy that's in Joan's pieces. I'm going to give us 2 minutes because I don't want it to be too stressful. And I just want you to work on loosening up your arms. So I've got these basic pieces that are different than the 4 pieces that I've put down here. And I'm going to just split them in half for myself. I'm just going to, with my melted pencils, they're ridiculous. I'm going to split it for myself. Okay. Does everybody have crayons or colored pencils? I'm going to pull out some colored pencils. So I have 2 different, so to say, sizes of tips. I am using, I'm going to use dark blue because that was the color I was missing. I'm using these color crayons and these pencils. We're going to do 2 minutes. I would like you guys.
So we're not using the paper that's going to be our finished piece.
No, this is one just like if you have a scrap piece.
Okay.
And you can also build on top of this. That's what's really awesome about Joan's work is that these scribble exercises, they're about like letting go of the energy so that you can control it moving forward. So we're going to do it in 2 minutes. you want to think to yourself, how can I make a decent, it's not gonna be good, decent composition in 2 minutes? Hold on, I got a little bit of lag here. Give me a second. Sorry, I could see my demonstration phone lagging. Okay, are we ready? Start the 2-minute timer, choose your colors well, and we're gonna do some rage scribbling, okay? And we're started. This is a high energy process, folks. I do tend to be like Joan though, like I like to have one spot that's like super energy, and then I like to build down, and you know. You're only 15 minutes in, so take that into consideration with the size of your marks. I definitely made this way too tiny. Let me tell you something, folks. It's cool. It's That's funny.
I don't know, that looks pretty great.
So here's my problem though. What I realize is I'm not very good at her like surprise spots of color. So this is gonna be where I'm gonna challenge myself today, because she does that part so intelligently where they're like tiny, just tiny little pops, enough to, you know, this is where Joan's a genius. Okay, folks, you got about 25 seconds left. Now here's the hardest part of your day. You thought that you'd already done it. Now I want you to start thinking about a word that you would use to describe your painting. What we'll have you do, well, it's not a painting, it's a drawing. Okay, our 2 minutes is up. First and foremost, my first question for folks is, how many people felt like they had too much time, that 2 minutes was too much time? Oh, we didn't lose me. Okay, cool. Nobody felt like they had too much time. That's awesome. Okay. Did anyone feel like they felt like towards the end of the 2 minutes that their choices about where their marks were going to be were getting better? Or you just feel like it was just a mad dash?
It was a mad dash.
It was a mad dash. Totally respect that. Okay, so we're going to do it again one more time. So I split mine. As you can see, I turned it into a little graph. I'm going to start my second piece right here. I'm going to be considering, I'm going to make them into a diptych. Okay, so I'm going to think about Joan's pieces. She would put these pieces up as the 4 panels, but they didn't automatically go into each other. They related to each other and they spoke to each other. So we're going to do the same thing where we're going to have 2 minutes. We're loosening up. Oh, I should probably get a sharpener real quick. Give me 1 second to go around the table.
Hey, Leah, do you know what this is? Or maybe Krista will. I got it in a box of supplies and I don't know.
What is it?
It's an eraser. It's an,
It's
oh,
like
no,
crayons.
Crayons?
I'm
maybe
not sure. I send you a picture. I'll send you a picture.
Yeah, send us a picture.
I
yeah.
got a box of. I've been doing like monthly supply subscription of art.
Is it a sketch?
Yeah.
Are they hard like a pencil or are they more soft like a crayon?
They're like a crayon.
Then they're either an oil pastel or there's some kind of, my guess is an oil pastel of some kind.
Like I use a water soluble one. So if you send us a picture, I'll look at the brand and tell you if it's one of the water soluble brands.
Cool.
I actually used to have we used to get that as well. You know what I also really love? We got a weird colored pencil once that had all of the colors in the rainbow in the pencil. So then it was just like a rotating randomness. It was very hard to work with, but it was very enjoyable. Okay, is everybody ready for our stopwatch? 2 minutes. This is your next warm up, and then we're gonna start working on our larger pieces. Are we ready? Okay, love it. Here we go. Julie, stop that. We're at 1 minute. We're halfway there. And our 2 minutes is up. Well, I definitely found for myself this time that I made way slower marks. That's for sure, because I think I adjusted to the amount of time that we were going to have. I will send a picture of my diptych, I guess you would technically call it. Something that I was thinking about. Oh, yeah. Oh, Neocolor is what I am using right here. These are Neocolor. Mine are water soluble, and they're like a water soluble crayon. Do you have a water and a paintbrush with them? You can check, you can see if they smear when you add water to them. It's the same brand that I use, Neocolor. Oh, and I'm so jealous of your China pencil. That is such a fun resist with stuff like this. So yay for you. Okay, so my painting is loosely based off of, I'm going to call it Your Average Tuesday. Audrey laughs because she knows what my Tuesday looks like. My Tuesday looks like 2.5 hours in a food cart of chaos. Or the food cart I work in sells an entire day's worth of food in 2 hours. It's absolutely bonkers. And then I have to come back here. And then the second panel is when I come back to the studio, and after I eat, I meditate for probably 20 minutes so that I can restructure my brain. This particular one has a little bit of a couple of hot pink dots in it because people kept showing up at the studio. A mailman came. My dog does this thing sometimes when I'm meditating where she sticks her whiskers in my face and it tickles me. And one of our friends showed up. I will tell you.
I came. I'm here right now.
You were active meditation. Jason showed up and I said, "This is my time." So
is Leo one of those pink dots?
I came when I was supposed to come. I did not come beforehand. I definitely knew.
Jason didn't know. He doesn't know that that's like, because it's kind of always the same period of time. It's 2:30 to 3. that I lay on the couch and readjust my brain. So does anybody else want to share theirs? You don't have to, but I would encourage it, is what I would say. Okay. Not gonna make anybody do anything they don't want to do. Okay. Today, for myself, I have laid out 4 pieces of paper. You don't have to work on 4 separate pieces of paper. What you could do is if you have 1 or 2 pieces of paper, you could lay out longer compositions through the center of the paper instead of using the top and the bottom. You can tape it out by just like taping it out right here. And here's what we're going to be working on today. I would like you to, like I said, be really intelligent. I do not know why this camera is behind, but it is creeping me out. We're going to follow Joan's creative suggestions for ourselves and make ourselves a multi-panel painting or drawing. I would like you guys to consider the energy of her marks. You're not standing making giant panels, but consider the energy of her marks. How can you use something like those crayons and colored pencils along with your paint to add some depth? I'm going to encourage you to do layers on top of each other and to really be very considerate about your color choices, meaning that pre-plan them. Think about things that go together and how they go together. I'm going to use this paper palette for my colors today. Something I'm personally going to do is I'm going to use my muted colors because they're a little darker. And I think something I was really inspired with personally in Joan Mitchell's work is that she doesn't shy away from using dark colors. So I'm using kind of a blacky dark purple and dark purple. I got this bright blue I'm going to mix in here just to give it a little bit of pop. And then I'm going to, I think, consider what the brighter color is that I would like to use. Does anybody have any questions before we start? I would encourage you, if you have questions during this, to ask them. Obviously, I'm here. I can answer anything you want me to answer. I'm going to be working on screen. And I am going to start with small marks, go a little larger, and then come back in with some small marks. So, Leah, are you working on something or are you just hanging out in there?
You're on mute, Leah.
She can probably hear me in the next room, but I am actually working on something that needs to get done, and I'm about to send a bunch of emails out, and
5 million emails here.
You know, the 5 million emails that need to get sent out. So
like it. Awesome. Well, we're gonna start this. I'm starting with pencil today. Let's see how it goes. I feel like I need to learn how to put some like music on during these moments using my Zoom. Zoom needs to pair up with Pandora. You know, we're getting real serious when I get out my tiny brushes. Yeah, I never use them. Not water soluble, but those are really cool, Tashmeen. They're beautiful colors.
Yeah, so you used to get one of the subscriptions. This was in my first box.
Yeah, I got it for my partner for quite a while. I think we got it for probably 8 months or so. Like it was quite a bit of time. I really enjoyed that it allowed me to try different brands I wouldn't typically try because I can get stuck in certain brands, you know?
Yeah.
So I shared with everyone a picture of my 4 panels and how I'm working them. I've decided that, you know, this dark purple is going to tell kind of the start of the story. So I thought that I would work through all 4 first with the dark purple before I kind of moved on to second layers is kind of how I'm thinking about it. In the second panel, you can see where it has a little bit less of the purple. I'm going to bring in, I have a secondary color that's kind of a muted pink. I'm going to bring it in to that panel, this panel right here, and have it tell more of the story and see how that affects kind of this moving story through it all. I know that it's 4:20 because my dog is staring at me right now, wanting to know where her food is. Like, why is she being so creepy? And then I looked at the clock. She doesn't understand. I mean, as you can imagine, as she is a dog, she does not understand time change, you know? So, or she gets fed at 5 o'clock every day and does not, when we step back and then we step forward, she just doesn't get it. Oregon's supposed to stop doing that stupid stuff, but we'll see if it really happens. So then we just get an hour of her staring at me like, it's that time, lady.
Damn it.
Right? Feed me. She's just such an expressive dog. I will say the aggressiveness at which Joan must have painted feels so foreign to me when I do it.
Really?
Yeah, I don't really paint, like, it's really about like thin layers for me and kind of subtle movements of the canvas. So it's kind of fun just to be like,
Yeah.
I'm all Joan Mitchell up in here. It's also a much darker palette than I would use, you know?
That's true. You use a lot of lighter colors and then layer in the darks. You have darks that are used for emphasis.
Yep.
You
But
guys.
this is why we're doing this kind of thing, because, you know, abstract art is a little bit of it all, right?
Yes.
My mom would love this one because it's got so much purple in it. Yeah.
I'm watching all of you. Tasha's like this. She's got both arms out.
Yeah, yes.
Like that. Jean is like head down, probably thinking about the meeting she had before, who knows? I don't know if we had a meeting, but you know. And Nina, of course, I can only guess. I think Nina, my guess is Nina is dreamily staring out a window.
I think she's in it, you know. That's I mysteriously can't stop thinking about, so I watch Chef's Table. I love the show Chef's Table. I've seen them all, but last night before bed I just felt like I needed to watch an episode, and I watched an episode about Gagan. And I never remember his other name because his restaurant's called Gagan, which is where it gets confusing. He is a chef out of Bangkok, Thailand. And I can't stop thinking about the episode, food, you know, the aliveness of where he was. And I did a bunch of research last night, which is who I am. I like to do all kinds of annoying research while I'm watching, you know, like the Netflix documentaries like that. And apparently he went through a divorce during COVID, and like I'm thinking about this, and he split from his investors, from his world famous restaurant, #1 Asian restaurant in the Asian countries, like he world fame beyond. And the investors weren't being very nice to his crew. They were suddenly being kind of creepy, weird guys. So he ditched them. And I just am thinking about kind of professional changes like that, you know, when you have to make value-based decisions. Very strange to me. And I don't know why I can't stop thinking about it today. So I'm sure it's going to come out in my painting somehow.
I just want to point out, by the way, that I was absolutely right about Nina. She is dreamily staring outside of me.
You knew.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I do. It's actually, I follow each and every one of you, which is kind of amazing because there's a lot of you. And my students are always like, I don't always have time to respond, but I pay attention to everything that comes across the thread. So
I will say that it is very common for me during my actual creative practice when I'm painting for myself to stop and stare dreamily out the window.
Yeah, I see you doing that. I can totally see you doing that. And while we're here, I'm going to show you guys, if you can look at my little screen while I'm walking around. I'm going to walk around and show you. My favorite picture is actually around the corner here. It's on a blue wall. I'm going to see if I can get you to see it.
Is that Pluvia file?
Yeah, the blue wall. Oh, darn, it's kind of like dark here. Hold on, let's see if I can. Can you guys see that behind me, behind my right shoulder? No, yeah.
You like
No, the other direction. Here, hold on. I can't. There we go. There we go.
That's gorgeous.
Isn't that amazing?
painting.
Cariska, all your paintings have to be on brightly colored walls.
It's true. They really do present better that way.
They are beautiful. That is just stunning.
That was one of the things we designed with the gallery, is we wanted to have one wall that at the time we intended for it to change colors with the show and have like a key piece to the show.
Gorgeous.
But really, it needed to do that, you know?
It's so beautiful.
So I appreciate that. Thank you. I haven't even touched my blue stuff yet, Leah.
I can't wait. I'm watching it. I am watching those little pieces as they're coming out. Like I said, I obsessively watch everyone.
It's gonna be a November show. It's gonna be a really good show.
It's gonna be great.
Toshween, some of the work that you've been showing lately has been really good. It's nice to see some of the representational stuff you're doing with Leah. It's looking really good.
Yeah, I'm trying to be better about sharing. So thank you so much.
It can be hard.
I had actually recently got some feedback from Toshween's like site coordinator that her work was looking so good. They have a Slack channel where they advertise all the classes. We're having trouble getting more BuzzFeed people on. And Eva, who's kind of the site coordinator for Art at Work, said, yeah, Toshween keeps posting these really amazing photos. And I think everybody else is like, I can't possibly do that.
You know, it's funny, this is a technical skill, right? That's what's really important. Like, we get lost in creativity like this, where it's a heartfelt experience and such, but
Right.
Like drawing and representational work is a technical skill.
It's a technical skill. And so we discussed ways that she could post stuff where people might feel a little bit more, like maybe show your beginning stages. Like that. But she is doing really great.
I've been watching them.
I think I got a few people to agree to like hang out like all together IRL and come to class with me.
Excellent.
And one of them, I told them that the abstract art class might be fun for them.
That's a great one. That's a great one. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, and you know, they don't all have to come out at, you know, it's this is, oh, those are looking good, Carissa. Wow.
They're very different. They're so bold.
Yeah. They are.
Well, and it just is so helpful in the rest of your work, you know, finding good ways for your brain. I have a friend who's a nurse practitioner, and he comes to my abstract art classes because he needs a stress relief when he's at work, you know, especially with
Oh yeah, there's a lot of reasons this is good. And what I think is sort of, you know, the challenge is to try and, whether you're working abstract or representationally, of course, the challenge is to make it good, as you do as well as you can. But the point is actually not to make good art. The point is to get into the process of learning how to do the art. And in that process, even if you don't create something that's great, you're learning, right, something new, which is good for your brain. It's like meditating. It's like exercise, really.
Sure.
I think it's less like, I mean, there's a meditative aspect to it in the sense that meditating is hard, right, to kind of keep the focus in, but really it's about exercise. You're exercising, thinking, and getting your hand and your eye to coordinate with your tools. And unless you're, you know, like Maria Hoopy, who's a participating artist in Open Studios, she's a quadriplegic, so she uses her mouth to hold her brush and does exquisite paintings. It's kind of shocking. It's amazing.
I just don't even know how she gets the paint properly on the brush. Does anybody else?
I can see that she's got a little bit. I've watched a couple videos of her, and I'm really looking for. I'm going to talk to her this week, or I'm going to interview her next week. And I can see she's got, although she's a quadriplegic, she seems to have a little bit of movement with her hands. So she's probably not complete, which means she probably experiences a lot of pain. But like it, you know, the trade-off is you get, like, you have some, like I can see her kind of with her fingers moving around a little bit. So, but yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how she emails me. How do you do that? Like, how do you do that? I'm completely entranced by her.
Read the article. I'm super into it.
Yeah.
With abstract art, part of the, you know, it is about practice. It's also about unlocking yourself, because as we get older and become adults and we work adult jobs, we're taught to kind of lock away our childlike self. And that's really where the magic is, you know. That's where, like, Agnes Martin talked about waiting for it, you know. That's what she was waiting for.
Waiting for it, right.
Yeah, she spent a lot of her practice about waiting for it. And I think that part of that was just being in an emotional position that you're, you know, that youngest sense of self is available.
Yeah, and it has less to do, and even if you are a professional artist, you need to remove yourself.
100%.
You have to remove the idea that you're going to sell this piece, you know what I mean, or whatever, like whatever it is you want to do, you actually do have to do how you feel, regardless of how people are going to react to it.
Here's my top secret to that. What I do is elongated projects that include lots of study, and then my studies become finished pieces.
Yeah.
And I think that it's something I kind of started doing as a way to kind of trick my brain from getting stuck in preciousness. Because if I was to say what I think holds people back from good abstract art is preciousness.
Yeah.
Also part of it is realizing that you're always gonna have the ugly part in the painting. I think I've actually just hit the ugly part in case you wanted to know how it goes out in real life. I definitely am comforting myself over here with knowledge that the ugly part often brings some of the best parts. So
when you paint on command as much as Carissa and I do, and I mean like on command for paintings to sell in this class, we're painting on, you know, in our classes, we're painting on command. You're constantly having to let go of the final results in a way, or trust that the final result will come through in some way, something will happen. That's part of what we're trying to model for you guys.
And I think it's a lot of these experiments, and maybe you don't like the whole painting, and maybe you're like, I spent 2 hours with that lady and I still just got a bunch of junky scribbles that are very similar to what I previously did. But if you step back from your paintings and you look at them and you say, well, actually this one spot, I really like this one spot in this whole junky painting. That's movement, you know?
Movement. That's like progression. It's hard. It's hard. It's hard to do that. That's why I never practice a piece before I come to you. So I do, as many of you know, like I will demo in 4 different mediums a week, and I pick a new medium every time, and I very specifically won't practice it because I want you to see the struggle. Yeah, so you really have to get used to this idea of struggle and like, is this going to turn out? Like, I don't know if this is going to turn out. Somebody, yeah.
You can say somebody.
I was going to say somebody in the Saturday class asked me if, and I'm still thinking about this. She asked me if you had a painting in your head and it can't come out the way you think it is, you know, what to do about that. And I had a couple of really strong reactions, and one of them was, I never have a painting in my head. I mean, I have a general idea of where I think it's going to go, but I don't ever I don't have a finished painting in my head that needs to come out on the canvas. I think shit happens in the tool, and I'm always like, oh wow, check that out. Like, I didn't know that was going to happen, but it looks kind of cool.
I have 2 responses. My first response is sometimes I have a painting in my head. It's actually not usually like a painting, but it'll be like a piece of a painting that I did, and I want to see it on a larger scale or as a more complete composition. And sometimes I am disappointed in how that comes into fruition. And I just accept that that is part of the process, right?
Yes. And if you're too, go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, so the other thing I want to say is exactly opposite of that though. Like the reality is that painting is like driving a car. You drive a car so much that you're making decisions on the fly, and you have enough experience to have some concept as to what those decisions are going to do for your work, and that you accept it. You don't get mad because you thought you were going to drive one way and you know you
something else. Yeah. And exactly. And I have actually, in my life of teaching hundreds of people how to draw and paint, the only ones that quit are the ones that have told me they have a painting in their head, they can't get it out. And they can't get it the way they want to. Those people quit very often.
John Blanton.
What?
John Blanton.
Yeah.
John, who did such beautiful, precise drawings.
Okay.
I would say that to his face. He's such a perfectionist that he can't not make something perfect, and it upsets him.
It upsets him, right?
I love the man of people, but yeah.
All right, if you would say that to his face, I would say
that to his face. I have said it to his face.
I work with a lot of people who have that problem, specifically because I think that breaking that is the best thing for them in their career. The reality with creativity is if creativity is an outpouring, like for John, clearly with his beautiful drawings, blocking it up is going to be the worst thing for him.
You can do it. Yeah. It's just like deciding, and he's not the only one. I have historically but the other thing I told this student was, sometimes it doesn't come out the way you want because you don't have the technical skill to do what you want to do. So that's a different thing, right? You do want to develop, like sometimes you're like, I can't make this coffee cup look like a coffee cup sitting on a table, but there's an answer for that, right? There is a technique for that. There's a way of understanding that. But even if you know how to make the coffee cup look right on the table, I still don't ever really know like how it's going to turn out. And I like it that way. I like it that I'm not so controlling about the ending, because then I'm often surprised and delighted. And like, sometimes I'm like, why does everybody love this one? They all love this one. Really? Okay.
But that one looks like a coffee cup.
Right, this one.
Why do you like the one that doesn't?
Or I spent 20 minutes doing this one, or, you know, like whatever it is, or like I just kind of whipped that out and now I'm like on to something else. So it's interesting that, like, I don't know, I just think there's lots, I think the surprise of it is what keeps it, for me, is an incentive to keep going, that I don't actually know what's going to happen. Is like that but I'm okay living with that kind of chaos. So, you know, you have to kind of be okay with living with a little bit of chaos. And that's
so into all of these images. Yeah.
Good.
Nina, you are somewhere great.
Yep. And did you see the name that Tosh named her trip?
Yeah, that is real life right there, right?
Energy drained by the hour.
I really had to work myself up to come to class, and then I'm like, now I'm all like wired.
You know, it's
like, are you feeling better now?
I am.
Yeah. So it's the
Thank
tired
you.
and then the working through and then the coming back up again. Sorry, Chris, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No, I actually have the same issue because I am naturally an introvert, and both of my jobs on Tuesdays are extroverted jobs. And but I'm always, that's why I have this rigorous, crazy process in between now, is because I'm trying to find the best ways to center myself, because I know that I always want to be here doing this.
Yeah.
Right. So I think we do talk.
It's so interesting. This balance between being comfortable and being uncomfortable is what we're always trying to like access. And that is between technique and like letting things be as they are. That is a like these ideas coming up in juxtaposition to each other. That's what's interesting.
I've been really interested, and I don't know if other people are feeling this way, with the random weird art that I'm making from each class, and how different it all is, you know? Like, I've got this like new collection of random work that looks nothing like my paintings, but it all has little surprises that I'm really entertained by.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think it probably, like, that experience is really what is defining this kind of new body of work for me, because then I feel like there's so much that I'm not out there trying and doing, you know?
You know, that's actually, Carissa, how I feel about teaching as well. Just quite simply because I'm often doing things that I would not really consider on my own. I do them for the class, and then I'm like, these are kind of like, wow. Even something, you know, something like obvious, I don't know, like routine, like boats or water or like landscapes. Or
I guess boats and water really aren't in your, like, they're not really in your repertoire.
They are, of course, are huge in yours because you live on the water, but not mine. And I don't really spend much time on the water.
A lot of my Portland work was based around the environments that were in Portland.
Yeah.
So.
Ooh, Jean.
Yeah, Jean.
Trying to stay calm.
I love how that one of hers had the the blue, the very blue at the bottom. And that's what it made me think of, that the blue was trying to keep everything calm and it wasn't succeeding very well.
You know, if that isn't life right there.
Nina's sending more, making us jealous with more Niagara.
I'm gonna look at hers and I'm gonna be so glad for her. Look at all those beautiful grapes.
It's so great. What I'm really excited about is Nina took a great shot of looking out her window in Toronto. She's in an apartment building, and eventually everybody who's taking classes with me doing cityscapes on Sunday is going to do their own. And it was such a different city scene than I'm used to looking at, but it was a lot of fun. Like, it was really neat. I was like, oh yeah, everybody should go outside and take like a picture of their street. It's a different.
Join that group. It was a Facebook group that started during the pandemic called The View from My Window.
Yes, that was a pretty great one, wasn't it?
It was. And it was like my favorite way of feeling connected, because during the pandemic I was doing all of these we're in the pandemic during the 58 days of lockdown, which is how long the state of Oregon was locked down entirely. I did a painting every day, and I lived in an apartment that was not on the water.
The apartment. That little apartment.
But you could see everybody's little windows. And so these paintings were like moments of COVID that were meant to reflect everybody's little windows. So I found that class to be especially inspiring, because it reminded me of my own lived experience at the time.
There's a Massive Attack song called Protection, and the video for that is exactly, it's just going in little windows of people's houses, it's really good. But being Massive Attack, like more dramatic than all that, but weirder, and like sometimes people are upside down and like, anyway, it was weird, but fantastic. Would highly recommend it.
I love the idea that you're gonna have people paint in their own environment.
Yeah, I want them to ultimately, we're doing a couple practices so they can start to get the technique that they need down, but ultimately everybody should paint their own city as they see it. And I don't see skyscrapers, but Nina does. And Jean also, probably you'll end up painting your outside window if you ever come to class on Sundays. That's a great,
The problem now is they're doing repair work on the facade. So for the last 6 months, I've had just scaffolding outside my window, and since I'm on the second floor, it's where the workmen do their staging. So mostly I'm looking at men's butt cracks with the work, they're the workmen with the pants hanging down, and I can't see the buildings across the street very well. So.
Yep. And by the way, Nina has sent the picture that she was sending across. So we were dealing with vanishing point perspective. And if you want to see, we kept going, go out on the street and take a picture. And she's like, it's not like that where I am. So we're like, take a picture of where you are and we will show you how the perspective works. And isn't that a great shot?
It's like it's so much a city, but all of that green.
Yeah. And also so high, and the stacks up so high, and like, so Nina's gonna paint that at some point, because it's a great, like, that's her city. She still needs to learn perspective, still needs to learn how to get that sketch right, get those lines to go right, but that is a very particular perspective, so I'm quite stoked. I'm looking forward to yours too, Tosh. And Jean, you've already taken pictures that would totally.
I know.
But it's a bummer.
I have no view, so right now, and I'm spoiled by my view, especially when we're spending so much time in our apartments.
Yeah. At the beginning of the pandemic, I did a commission for a guy living in Brooklyn who's got some pretty epic views outside of his window. And when I do commissions for people, I tend to prefer that they send me a photo of the environment that the painting is going to live in. And it was really a beautiful, like, so different than anything you'd see anywhere I've ever lived. Skyscrapers and stuff.
Oh, I like that blue you're putting in there. It's giving everything a kind of a, it actually is like walking in on you right after you've done your meditation, putting the blue in. It's like you're taking the edge off the,
Yeah.
Hold on.
it looks like. Yeah, and you know, sometimes you need to just do nothing. It's really hard to do. Like, sometimes you just need to do nothing.
This is a super challenging color scheme for me because it's a lot of purple and I really struggle with purple and I don't always know how to make purple so nice, you know? But I'm really glad that I chose it because it, again, working on those tools for my toolbox.
What is the medium that you're putting on there, Krista? Or is
It's
that
not, it's high flow white.
high flow white? Got it, got it. Okay.
Joan Mitchell's backgrounds were rarely actually white. They were often like kind of mixtures of white and the primary color in her painting. So I'm doing a little bit of that. She had this interesting way of making the backgrounds look alive, you know, without making them look detracting from what she's doing. There's actually a current abstract painter who paints very similarly, so to say, but with a contemporary twist to Joan Mitchell's work. And she's a beautiful example of how you can be inspired by somebody's work and not necessarily co-opt it, you know?
Right.
And I think I've heard before Adrienne Neat. She's doing some big work with mental health and art and stuff like that. So. Oh.
Yeah, when the first few paintings you showed us, it was like there was as much movement in the pale space as there was. I mean, I would love to see it in person because I'm sure it's much more noticeable. But there was as much movement, you just couldn't really see it because the colors were so light, you know?
Yeah.
It felt like it was moving too. But you know, you were really, your eye was really drawn to the darker stuff. But it was fascinating how much was
You're
going
in New York, right?
Too, yeah.
Right? You're in New York?
Mhm.
She's got, so the reason that this book that I bought came out is that they're showing her retrospective in the United States. They're showing one in San Francisco and one in New York City at the Guggenheim.
Is
So
it here now?
I don't know when it, let me
I'll
look.
check. It's okay, I can check.
If you look at the Joan Mitchell,
Whitney, or would that be at
Cisco, I think it's at MoMA, SF MoMA there.
Okay.
And then it's at the Guggenheim in New York. I know that September is when it makes it to San Francisco, and I think it goes to New York after that. So I'm thinking you're looking at winter or spring. You can go see these pieces. They're going to have a huge selection of this work in person.
Oh, I'm so excited. That's going to be great.
You know who's going down? Robin, the ex board president, is actually going down to San Francisco to see the show in San Francisco.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I'm super jealous. I gotta be honest with
Yeah.
you. I wish I was going to San Francisco to see it.
Maybe we can set up a workshop for you in New York.
See it at the Guggenheim.
I still feel like in-person workshops won't come in, at least not in my lexicon until 2023. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah.
No, I think about it often, mainly because I like to do January workshops.
Mm-hmm.
And it really is hard. I saw the artists that we had in Cambium last month did a workshop this last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't even wearing masks. Not everybody was wearing masks. And I was really disappointed.
It's not like, it's just not worth it. Although Jean is going to be in Portland for Portland Open Studios for the second weekend.
If things stay calmish in New York and Portland.
I think, I don't know.
In terms of Delta.
I'm not gonna say a fucking word. Can't go there.
Right now, because we don't want to jinx ourselves.
Exactly. I'm not saying a damn word. But anyway.
That is the weekend.
This will include hopefully a midweek trip to Astoria, so they can see your gallery in person.
And I'm going to be in for Portland Open Studios that weekend.
Yeah.
Because the weekend before is the first weekend of Portland Open Studios is second Saturday.
Yeah, I have to. Hey, Krista, do you guys have the dates for Astoria next year? Is it always at the same time?
It's the weekend of it's July, but it's the weekend that's like the second. It's like the middle 20s. You know what I mean? Middle
20s. I have to mark that down on my calendar because I missed it this year and I would really like to catch it next year. So
it was really fun this year. I really felt like we had some life back,
I bet it was nice.
That story's up and coming, yo.
Yo, it is.
You know how many people say that to me all the time? I'm like, I understand. I can't leave my house some days of the week. I feel meh about these, and that's okay.
I like, there's pieces of them I like, but anyway, it's not about it. It's not about us. It's about you.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna try some smaller marks. How is everybody else feeling about their pieces?
I'm liking mine.
Good. Sometimes I feel wildly successful and sometimes I don't. Yeah, I like your pieces.
I just sent them over about where they are now.
I'm into it. I like that you're continuing to layer, which is really what I'd like to see from you today. So it makes me happy. I know what I can do to get a better perspective. It's time to take off the tape. She's absolutely ridiculous.
Feeling weighted down, Tosh. Yeah, I can feel the heaviness.
I see that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I don't hate him as much now that I'm taking tape off and they have a proper border.
Funny.
This is something I do sometimes when I'm working on work, I take off the tape kind of before the last phase, because I always find that I like it more right when I get to the point where I'm like, ugh.
Because you're pushing things. You're pushing things the way you know how to push them, right? So you're in the process. Oh, look, there's snacks. Snacks. There's
Dinner
snacks. When Chris is not standing in front of her painting, you can see snacks being cute.
Perfect.
Being perfect, right. Snacks being totally perfect.
Yeah, okay, so these are opening up to me a little bit. I don't hate them as much. Congratulations, Carissa. I mean, that's a real thing. It's funny that we talked about it today, but it is a real thing. Ooh. Okay. Oh, Toshween, I love yours. I actually think they look so, what a great development. That brightness that comes through too, I'm so into it.
Do you have any suggestions?
Let me, so here's something that I like to do sometimes when I'm feeling meh about it. I feel like I need more light in my painting often. That's what I'm thinking to myself. Like that is the experience I have with it. Have you layered a light yellow on top of your pink before?
No.
You should try it in these ones in particular because they're really beautiful the way they're kind of purpley and red and pink all at one place.
Okay.
But you can do something that you can water down pretty good. So a watercolor will probably be your best choice if you have it, or a watered down acrylic. Because it'll make it glow a little bit and you may feel like it brings a different life to it.
Okay. Watercolor or
I use watercolor personally because
okay.
I think it looks better.
Cool.
Yeah, try it on the pinky parts, like the parts where it's like purple and red and pinky all at once.
Okay. Thank you.
Why not? I mean, we're here to find out how much you like it. And something that works beautiful.
Nice.
Wild and willy.
Yeah.
What do you think, Oscar? Okay. Okay.
Hey, Carista, I'm looking, I've been thinking about, I know you have an idea about replacing Sam with another painter for the all classical concert. So I was just looking through our artists.
Yeah.
Who was popping out. I actually haven't had a chance to do that. And a couple are jumping up.
Right. Tell me who they are and I'll tell you if they're the ones from the men.
Okay. Joachim McMillan. He's in Southwest.
Don't know. Yeah.
There's somebody named Mary Murley, although I'm not sure I'm as huge of, I don't know. I'm not sure about her. Mary Murley is, I mean, definitely abstract.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm looking, hang on, I'm just getting to Northwest. Yeah, not many, we don't have many abstract artists in this year.
A lot of applications for this year.
I know, I was just thinking like some of my favorites are not here. Mark Dunst isn't here and okay, so let me go back and look again.
Yeah, I don't even know what Mark Dunst is doing.
Yeah, I don't either.
Good question.
Let's see. Yeah, so I guess Mary Murley or Joachim McMillan, perhaps David Trowbridge might, I don't know. Maybe Patty Molly. But she still looks like she doesn't work intuitively. She looks like there's a lot of composition in her work.
Hold on.
Yeah, it's not that many. So interesting.
That's funny. You can see the big spots where she took somebody's name out.
Oh my God. Now here are two I didn't think about. Jen Joven and or Mark Jacobson would probably also be good. I know Joven could do it because she's very intuitive painter.
You want me to send you the email that I sent to Sam? Sorry, everybody, for this.
Yeah, sorry guys, we're just like getting a chance to do this.
That I sent to Sam. What I said to her was, we were looking for an artist that could respond to the spirit of the moment.
Oh, Jean, that's looking nice. I mean, nice is not the word. You know what I mean? Powerful.
Like you were getting your point across.
Actually, I think Jen Joven might be a strong candidate if you wanted to consider her. She's
I love that, you know, that you're still doing something, even though you do have a lovely outside to just hang out and stare at, which is probably what I would be doing.
Yes.
That's what I carry is watercolor and pencil when I travel. I think that I do have a pretty extensive watercolor pan. I think it's 12 pans in one, but it is what I do most of my travel work with. Send them an email and see what they think.
Jen, send Jen an email. Jen Joven?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see.
So, you know, they're very specifically looking for a painter who can, you know, respond to the music in some capacity.
I definitely know Jen can do this. So let me send her a note and see what she said. But I'll send her a note and see what she says. I'll CC you on it.
How is everybody feeling as we're rounding up the end of class? Are you feeling like your paintings are as good as they're going to get? So that might be the term I use for mine.
Yeah, I think I'm done with mine.
I think that I am amazed at Joan Mitchell's skill, for sure. When you get in there and start doing something, you know, similarly and see how hard it can be to do it well and beautifully. I think I'm doing that thing where I'm over processing and adding too much is probably where I am right now, which I mean happens.
I think yours are gorgeous.
Me too.
I think this is the first time I haven't left too much white space.
Yeah, good for you. That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see you using layers to fill your space, and I'm really glad that you did. I think that when learning to do abstract work, it seems to me that you're more successful filling it all, making mistakes, and then as you get some skill base, pulling back and leaving more white space. I too am going to call mine done.
Right on.
Let's see how they shape up when they dry. Oh my gosh, 90 degrees.
It's hot. It's hot out there.
Yeah.
Weird.
Yeah. Ooh.
We've cooled down to an 85 here.
We had a perfect day here today.
It's pretty nice.
This dog. I tell you. I tell you. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You know. I am gonna stop making people sick with my camera though, that's for sure. I snuck up on Audrey. Audrey thought I was gonna sneak up on you, Leah.
I love it. Oh, Josh, I think the yellow worked.
Pink.
Yeah, it helps. I
And-
think the first one is still heavy, but
Oh my gosh, I love the yellow though. It makes
I
it look.
think it worked.
These might be some of your more successful pieces. They're really beautiful.
Is the, Jean's asking if the yellow in the upper left is too much, Carissa.
Not at all. Mainly because the yellow, sorry.
Yeah.
The yellow that you have in the rest of your pieces down by the blue are so small. It's kind of nice in that upper left because it gives visual attention to it and balance. Balance is really like a hard thing to find with abstract art. I love the yellow in both of yours. I think that it was a really, I also, you know, Tashween, the panel that I'm looking at the most is the right panel with the little white down in the corner.
Yeah.
What a great way to kind of lighten up that bottom dark corner. It's really beautiful.
thank you. I also think that I finally have the right tools. So
You know,
that's
it makes a difference, right? When you learn how your mediums work. I mean, that really is what good abstract artists have a really good grasp on. They have a really good grasp on color, and they have a really good grasp on how materials actually do what they want them to do.
I love these, Tashween.
They're all
Thank
looking good.
Let's go to the show in December.
Yes, please go see it. It's going to be beautiful. Can't miss it. Although, isn't Guggenheim one of the ones that's super expensive now? Sure.
Yeah.
They have all the good
It's
stuff.
always pretty expensive.
Sometimes different companies have discounts, so I'll check. Like I know I used to be able to get into the Whitney with my Thomson Reuters ID.
Oh man, I love Whitney. That's a great piece.
That's where I saw Hilma Afkint.
Yeah,
Hilma Afkint.
and Julie Maruti.
I didn't see it. I didn't see that. Wish I
I
had.
obviously didn't see either one of them, but I dream of seeing them someday.
Oh, the Hilma Afkint one. Oof.
I know.
I must have spent 4 hours there.
I imagine I would too. I have the book and I have spent longer than that with it. It's like the second worldly nature of her pieces. Also, I just find how different, I don't know if they had any, I think they probably just had all the ones that she painted when she I call it under the influence. She wasn't really under the influence.
Right.
She was a spiritual guide.
They had a pretty broad,
Did they show the ones after she stated that her spiritual guide left?
I think so.
Because they were drastically different.
They were
stuff.
very different. Yeah, there were some that were really geometrical, and then some that were very, free, and then it was just, they were just so many different ones.
It's a crazy concept. It also, though, I really think a lot about Helma F. Clint. She understood the limitations that women in art were facing at the time period. And there's a lot of conversations about the amount of time that she asked that her estate executor hold the work.
Right.
Was also about knowing that society, or hoping, I guess, probably, that society would change and that a female artist could come up with a body of work like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And it did.
Yeah.
She never would have gotten a huge show like that in her own lifetime.
No, it's her work is so spectacular. I'm loving all of these pieces that they're finding of women from that time period, and we get to see kind of their greatness through a different lens.
I would say she and Leonora Carrington are my favorite.
I really got to stop fidgeting with these pieces. My problem is I really can't stop.
Yeah, you want to keep working it. Keep working it.
Yeah,
Put the paintbrush down.
Right. I do love all the weird pieces I'm making in this class, though. I got a little collection going. Okay, see, look at me go.
Do you ever work on small canvas or just always big canvas? I mean, I know you're working on small paper for demonstration purposes, but do you ever?
I actually, so one of my primary sizes is actually 10 by 10.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I do a lot of my sketches and my preliminary work on a 10 by 10 basis, and then work up from there. Then I'll usually grow, so to say, to a little bit larger, like maybe a 17 by 21 or like a 24 by 36, and then go up to the 48 by 48. And now, honestly, with the 48 by 48, I paint on canvas, and it's a very different painting process than I use on paper. So there's for specific, site-specific sources, usually. Like Leah's got the ones behind her are the big pieces.
Yeah.
But I have, 30 of the 10 by 10s in my studio that were up for open studios. And everything I've made so far for this blue show is, this size or smaller.
Yeah,
so,
that's true.
Yeah.
I like that one, by the way, that you're holding. That's my favorite of the series. Although I like the way they're playing off each other. I think that one has something kind of crystallized and rocky about it. And I like that edge.
They're interesting. I'm really glad that I made them the way I did, because that makes me like them a lot better. I feel like they have boundaries that are appropriate.
I like them. Yeah, that works. Works out really well. All right, everybody send in your last set. We've got 5 minutes left.
Oh, those are so beautiful, Nina. I like the one on the right the best, with the yellow and the little flowers. And so
oh, Tosh, shit. I agree with you, Krista. I think these are this is the most successful abstract work And definitely it's got some nice heaviness
Thank
to it.
you.
Yeah, Krista, I like that one. That's pretty neat.
Really coming out this last couple of weeks, you know, with classes. And this actually, this one on the end here is very interesting to me. I like it. I like it a lot because it feels a little bit like a cliff, like, I don't know, standing on the edge of a cliff almost. It's very strange.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, very interesting. All right, you guys, let's, I'm gonna stop. I mean, unless we need any more recording. I think do you have anything else you want to say about this, Krista, before we stop the recording?
Oh.
All right.